So CE5 then is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and this is when you have psychic communication, and then hopefully
where you try to create sightings of unidentified flying objects by positively.
Well, you say that you try to create.
Well, not create, just create. You try to summon the beings into what's the word? Make themselves visible in our visible light spectrum, so that we can observe them in the skies above us by positive, conscious thought. Trying to talk to them, psychically.
So, Stephen Greer came up with a set of protocols. He says when he was much younger, I think he was about 17, he had a near-death experience. He's up in the mountains near where he lived at the time. He said that's one of the reasons why he's not scared of death now, because he's been there, done that, and death isn't the end and stuff. I think that's what Stephen Greer's talking about, isn't it? Because he did nearly die, and he now knows there's this one consciousness, this universal energy, and then that may be, once you realize everything is so much bigger than you are, maybe you're not as afraid of death as before.
And everything's connected, and that maybe perhaps the death of this body isn't the end of the consciousness that inhabits this body. It's a nice thought, isn't it? It's a nice belief. Unfortunately, we haven't got any science to prove this yet, as the science and consciousness is only really starting to develop. As our electromagnetic resonance imaging of the brain gets better and better, start to delve into that consciousness and the questions around it more, I would imagine.
Yes, I most definitely think so. So during this near-death experience, he basically had a psychic connection with an alien being, a psychic experience, and he had this conversation basically with an ET. And during these conversations, he came up with the ET this protocol for how to have these communications in the future. Shall we just mention, before we move on, because something we're going to mention quite a lot probably over the next few episodes is quantum entanglement. Right? So for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's evil.
Spooky action at a distance, I think, as Einstein called it.
Yeah. So basically you can have two photons, say, one spins left and one spins right, and they can go shooting off into the universe
from the same source.
From the same source, and they become quantumly entangled, and that basically means they're connected. But it doesn't matter how far away they are. If one spins left, the other one spins right. If one then spins right, the other one will spin left. So whatever happens to one affects the other, and that breaks several laws of physics, because there's no time lag. So that means that the signal, whatever is happening between those two objects, the information is traveling faster than light. Impossible. But proven. It's proven. The Chinese have done it with some sort of satellite thing. There's lots of experiments, and there's the Schrodinger cat one that I love, where they shot a load of photons through one side, and the quantumly entangled ones went through another one, basically through a cutter shaped like a cat, and those ones came out cat shaped. They both basically came out cat shaped.
Even though the second aperture that they were firing them through wasn't in any way the shape of the cat. That is amazing. I can't.
So witchcraft. We need to burn all physicists at the stake, because that's just wrong and evil. But this is the truth, and this is, I think, the fundamental core stone of what they're basically saying is if that's true and that's fact, then everything else really becomes possible.
Well, it tells you that our fundamental understanding of physics and the current model can't quite be right. We've got quantum mechanics for how the very small works, and then we've got classical mechanics, relativity, Einstein, how everything big works in the universe in terms of planets, star formation, galaxies, etc.
And we can't figure out
can't unify them.
Well, another thing that Stephen Greer talks about and says that explains why this works is, again, that there is some sort of quantum, doesn't really go into it, but some sort of quantum thing in our brain that our brains are so sophisticated we can also affect things on a quantum level. And one of the ways he's talking about that is through the experiment with a random number generator. So they have a random number generator, and you have billions of ones and zeros, boom, 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 boom. Statistically speaking, over a big enough sample section, you should get roughly 50-50. It's never going to be exactly 50, but roughly 50-50.
Yeah.
You have an experiment now when somebody focuses on that number one random generator and thinks more ones than zeros, and if you get even 51% go one way or the other, they talk about statistically relevant, don't they? Then that you can prove that person has affected that technology just by focusing on it with his brain, basically.
Yes, which is quite scary that people just by focusing their mind can affect a random number generator that's supposed to generate random numbers. So they're using their consciousness to affect essentially what you would assume would be an unconscious object.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, in that case, what is the number generator becoming part of your consciousness? Is it somehow within your consciousness?
Yeah, they asked the Dalai Lama what they thought of this, that people were consciously thinking about producing more digits with nines in, let's say, on the random number generator of the digits, and they were seeing more nines when they did it. And he said, they asked him, is the random number generator therefore conscious then, if it's being affected by human consciousness? And he says only if the human that is thinking about affecting the number generator believes the number generator is conscious.
All right, I've got one. God, I say Dalai Lama's quite. That is a bit Schrödinger's cat, though, isn't it? As well as on a quantum level, is the cat dead or alive?
Yes, it is a bit Schrödinger's cat-esque. It's not quite, but yeah, I see what you're referring to.
Right. So if we go through the protocols then, of what was created, we've talked a little bit about how we think it might work. So protocol 1. You need a nice big view of the night sky. They say get away from the city lights and things, trying to be as remote and quiet as you can. You can do it indoors. And then it says if you feel compelled to go outside and look at the night sky, do it. Because that might be E.T. basically somewhere in the back of your head telling you, hello.
I like that comment about
bing bong.
I like that comment about doing it indoors.
Yeah.
You're communicating with alien beings in spaceships that are interstellar distances, but if there's a wall in the way, it doesn't work.
Won't work. It's not my Wi-Fi, mate.
Just they had to state that you can do it indoors. I figured that a wall wouldn't make much of a difference.
I'm talking about multiple light years away, and I'm just like, the roof. It's like the lagging's in the way. So you can do it inside if you want to. I always think that this thing about a full night sky and away from the city lights. I know light pollution is insane. I couldn't believe it years ago in Scotland. I went up and I was camping at night, and we were about 50 miles from anybody. And you look up and it's like, oh, that's what they're on about light pollution. That's incredibly beautiful.
See the Milky Way in its full glory. Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah. My cynical side of me says, though, that when you then see the night sky, you see stuff moving constantly. There's always shooting stars. You can actually see satellites, such that you can actually, and if you look in the right place, you can see the ISS with your naked eye. You have to know what you're looking at, but so in that case, I think you've got to be very aware of what the night sky looks like. I think if a city dweller went out into the night sky and then somebody went, oh look, there's a UFO and it's a shooting star, and you probably would go, oh gee, wow, sort of thing. You need to know what you're looking at.
Yeah, because it's what you're used to, isn't it? And if you're not used to it, because you've lived in a city your whole life, then you go outside, you are going to misidentify some of the things that you've never seen before. And it's just,
So, step 2, protocol 2. Prepare for the meditation. You sit in a circle if you're in a group. You sit straight. You have some breathing exercises like normal meditation. I would suggest personally, I've done a bit of meditation in the past. You take your shoes off and your socks off and you connect yourself to the earth that you're with. I don't know why that works, but it helps me when I try to meditate. My mom told me that, and she watches our videos sometimes. So, hold on, Mom. State your intention. That's really important, is to prepare your intention. And this is a bit of this thing that sounds a bit hippie, but it actually just makes sense. If the aliens are psychic and they are genuinely listening to your thoughts, this is one of the arguments for why when people do get taken a close encounter of the fourth kind, I would just say, why don't you just nick an ashtray or something? Why don't you just do something? And I said, you can't, because the aliens are literally listening to your thoughts. As soon as you think, I'm going to try and grab that as evidence, the aliens already know what you're thinking about, and that's why you'll never be able. Nobody will ever steal anything from an alien craft because they're thinking to your thoughts. And it's a similar thing with this.
Okay.
You need to state your intention, and they need to know that your intention is honourable and that you're not there with a film crew, basically, to make money or to get, you know. So if I did it to get YouTube video and to make, you know, to get views on YouTube, it probably almost certainly wouldn't work because they would know my intention isn't honourable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could kind of yeah, okay.
So I'm going to try it in a few weeks. I'm going to go camping and try it. It's not going to work. Right. So then, yes, you do your meditation, stating your intention. You do a 20-minute meditation at first, according to the SETI protocols. And you focus on your third eye, your third chakra.
Pineal gland, chakra. Which we've already said on this channel before that we think maybe the third eye, as they call it, or the I like to think of it as it's your brain's antenna.
Yeah.
To the universe.
And I'd say, from a purely scientific, biological point of view, it's a very interesting gland and stuff that a few years ago we thought did one or two things, and now we've realised, oh, that really is like a very important element to the brain. And if you don't want Alzheimer's, look after your pineal gland, basically.
Yeah. So then maybe that's a bit what Alzheimer's is then. If people have I don't know, been eating a processed food diet, you know, from today's mass-produced products in the supermarkets, and you've calcified your pineal gland, you've kind of just you've damaged your antenna and your link to the one consciousness. That's why you go a bit crazy, because you're not linked to anything else properly anymore.
Well, that's one of the theories, isn't it? To say that why we have calcium in our water and fluoride in our water and stuff, and it's and the diet we eat, and the government trying to push this like McDonald's diet on us sort of thing, is that what they're actually trying to do is disconnect us from the pineal gland, or calcify the pineal gland so it disconnects us from God, or
disconnects us spiritually.
God. Yeah, and the universal energy that we would maybe label as God, but you know, not in the way we consider this omnipresent being, an actual sort of that universal energy, but disconnecting us from that because they want us to sell us their God. Sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, America's a prime example of it, where, you know, you've got the church intertwined with the state, and 90% of people are, you know, Christians. When in reality, there should be no religion intertwined with any state, because it's a belief system, and you don't really want a belief system creeping into the political system. But anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good idea to me.
No, but in God we trust. Disaster, and history proves that.
So after your meditation, you focus on your heart chakra, and you project peace and love. I instinctually go at that, but I'm a grumpy old man, so hence the hat. Projecting peace and love, that just immediately sort of goes, oh, for God's sake, with me.
It does, but it doesn't. I do believe in karma in the universe. I do think what goes around, you know, comes around, and you get what you deserve eventually. And if you're generally a positive, upbeat person, I tend to find that you run luckier on the poker tables than if you're in a bad mood and you're down. I tend to find that luck isn't there. I tend to find being positive does have a positive impact on the online poker gambling that I do, for example. I know I can't prove that.
You might be affecting the cards, mate.
But no, but
well, it's not real cards, is it? You could be affecting the.
You're probably not. I'm not saying you are. I'd like to think I possibly can influence it by thinking about it, but you're probably not. But when your mindset's in the right place, you're probably just more focused and you're playing better. Combine that with a slightly better run of cards, and that then equates to a much
confidence
deeper run of tournament.
Is important, isn't it? Listen, the difference between a good footballer and an amazing footballer is confidence.
Yes.
You know, and that's so that there is an element to that. Yeah, I'm agree with you on that. So what we put out there, we definitely get back. I'd agree with that. So then we ask the UFOs to come to us. You can do a thing where you project your location telepathically, and the way it was described was like Google Earth. So you imagine, you know, when you have a Google Earth and it zooms in on the place. Mm-hmm. So that's how you sort of try to imagine it like that. So you imagine the Milky Way, and then you imagine the Earth, and then you imagine the country, and then you imagine your place, and you basically try to zoom them in or suck them into your location.
Okay.
And they could come from anywhere in the universe, in theory. And then you might project, say, what you want the aliens to do. Do you want them to come? Do you want them to show themselves? Do you want proof that they exist? Do you want them to help us? Do you want them to come and help us in our, in our world, in our struggles of today, or whatever? Project that out there. Get it out there. The worst they can say is no. So then, the fifth thing is you scan the skies, being open about the psychic link. So what they're basically saying is you open, see what's about, be open to the possibility of seeing something unusual. I would say, while remembering to know that things are sometimes just shooting stars.
Careful what you wish for, though, because as we know with the human species, there's some malevolent humans that have existed through the course of history. There's probably some malevolent ETs as well, just because they're, more advanced than us, and doesn't necessarily mean they're nice.
Well, Greer doesn't agree with you, does he? Greer thinks that there is that, and he talks in a few of his in the CE5 film he's just done about if they were malevolent and they would come here and they wanted to start a ruck, that fight would last about 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, we're game over anyway. It'd be Independence Day. They just wipe us out with some kind of virus or something, and they were just wiping out an infestation of insects. Gone. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't. They don't have to want to invade us, do they? But I think there could be agendas, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe more
if they're spacefaring races and they've travelled vast distances to come and observe us or visit this planet. They've come here with their own agenda. You're silly if you think they haven't, and they're not always going to do what you want them to do or do what you think is right necessarily, because they might view us like ants, how we view ants, for example.
I think we've said before, I think they generally come here very interested, like we do, going looking at wildlife, and they might not want to interfere, and that's why they don't have contact with us, because they want to view us in in natural ways. But actually, when it comes down to it, they're not actually that interested. They've got other things to worry about. It is just an academic interest, maybe.
Yeah, like how we, Attenborough does all of our, wild species for us, and how fascinated we are about observing all the other creatures that exist on this planet. I think that fascination will still exist in other species, especially if they've learned to travel the vast interstellar distances. They're literally just going to be going around and observing and seeing what exists where and what evolution's created and all that. And yeah,
exactly. And I honestly believe as well that intelligent life is probably quite rare. So when they come across it, they would want to learn about us, but maybe not interfere with us.
Yeah, maybe they want to follow our own evolutionary course without interference. Or on the other hand, perhaps if you believe some things, maybe we have been interfered with in the past, and that's where the human species comes from. But who knows?
And another way of looking at it, though, mate, is as well thinking about it is that they might be seeds in the universe, because they might want to see more intelligent life, so possible. But also, when intelligent life or a species that can become intelligent comes along, you could understand that if intelligent life is very rare, that they would want to protect it. We could be a nature reserve. If we are, they're not doing a very good job because we're trying to slaughter ourselves. But we could be something like they could maybe be interested enough to protect or to try to guide us the way we want without going too far.
Yeah, like the increased UFO sightings since the 40s and onwards, since we developed the radar technology and then nuclear weapons. They seem to be an influx of sightings. Now, that could be because of that, or it also could be that, I suppose, camera technology has generally improved with time. So obviously people are going to catch more of these things on camera as the years keep rolling on and on, just because everybody's now got a smartphone camera, and if they see something in the sky that's a bit weird, they're straight out and on it. Whereas in the past, you couldn't do that. So
this is one of those things they say that sometimes it seems to be statistically that UFO sightings go up around times of plagues. And things like this as well, which is maybe interesting.
Okay.
So what do you think then? First of all, Greer's story about how it came about. Do you think he was actually talking to aliens, or do you think he's talking to himself?
I think, given what he's devoted his whole life to, gave up his career as a physician. What was he? I think he was an
MD.
An MD.
Emergency room
doctor, wasn't he? Yeah. So he gave up that career to pursue this. He must have had some kind of experience relatively early in his life that founded his beliefs in UFOs and extraterrestrials and pushed him down that path. So I tend to believe that he at least thought he had that experience, even if he didn't have that experience, because otherwise he wouldn't have done what he's done.
it does explain why he's gone the way he's done. It explains why he was so passionate about the Disclosure Project, which we've spoken before about is probably the most important single event in UFO history. It explains why he was so determined and so passionate about that. And then we're going to talk about an event in a minute. I would like to think he's genuine and he's really passionate about this. But the more you learn about some of the sightings that have been recorded, I have my suspicions. And you do get snake charm salesmen sort of thing. In every time in history, you get people that come along and they see a niche and they realize they can make money on it, and they lie. So I suspect he might have actually. I'm in two minds about it because I think he might be talking myself, and I still haven't made my mind up on Greer, but I want to be open-minded about it. But I do think that what he says makes sense. It does make sense to me that aliens would be potentially telepathic. That I think either through technology or evolution that it makes sense. You know, they say that an advanced species, we're advanced because we basically have communication and thumbs, and that allowed us to advance. If we were telepathic or something, that as soon as a part of our species started to become telepathic, they would dominate the rest of the human species, and eventually that would become, do you know what I mean? That would be an evolutionary advantageous thing. So I could see that either through technology or evolution, ETs would be psychic. In which case, this whole thing makes total sense.
Yeah, and if you go back, 100 years or, 50, 100 years, Einstein, the speed of light would have restricted that nothing can go faster than the speed of light, according to our understanding of physics, and therefore you couldn't communicate telepathically because your thoughts couldn't travel faster than the speed of light to give instantaneous communication telepathically. Therefore, it wasn't possible. But what we know now about quantum entanglement might mean that instantaneous telepathic thought is possible.
Yeah, we've learned there might be a way around it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how, and it'd be very difficult to speculate how the brain would be able to do telepathic thought instantaneously linked into quantum entanglement. But it just as a thought, it's a nice thought to think that it is potentially possible because of it.
You sit down, anybody, a quantum physicist, and sit them down and go, right, tell me how quantum entanglement works, and they'll talk at you for 2 or 3 hours, and then at the end of it, you will have to say, yes, but how does it work? They go, I don't know. There's no bloody clue how that works. They'll talk about it in lots of depth, but they don't know how it works. So they can't say it's not possible. We don't know how the quantum mechanics things work. A lot of it. So it ain't possible. So, okay, they'll go into the protocols then. Do you think they make sense? I have a little bit of a problem with the first protocol, just saying going out into the deep night, going away from city lights and things. I have a little bit of an issue with that. I just want to warn people that if you do that, you will see lights in the sky.
Yeah, but it is also a very sensible thing to do in order to observe more of the visible sky at night without light pollution. So, contrary to that, it is still logical.
That's maybe me being a little skeptical. But in the same thing, that if I wanted to do this, I'm going to go to the local. I'm going to go camping for the night somewhere when we're allowed to. As far away from people as I can, and set up my camera and give this a go. And my thing, I won't be doing it in my living room, but maybe that's a psychology thing rather than an alien thing, because they don't care.
Yeah, I was going to say, I very much doubt, as I said before, it would make any difference whether there's a roof or a wall between you, rather than,
no.
Interstellar distances, it makes no difference. If it's going to work, it's going to work through through your house.
And we've already said the meditation stuff, again, makes sense, doesn't it? You want to focus your mind. If they are psychic, you need to sort of almost create like a beacon to sort of say, I'm here.
I suppose there's no chanting involved, because you find in a lot of ancient cultures, a lot of ancient rituals, particularly, the shaman in, South America, where they, do the ayahuasca and, the psychedelic and get closer to their god, supposedly, by taking this psychedelic and going off into a astral projection and traveling through the universe.
Yeah, let's do a bit of chanting. Let's throw a bit of chanting. I did a video that I was had an email off a guy that the Utah monolith thing a little while ago.
Oh, right, yes, that one. Yep.
That the actual original Utah monolith was actually built by some local MUFON people who were trying this back in 2015 or something, 2014, something like that. And he said they were trying to use it like as a focal point, so they would sit around it, use that as a focal point as an experiment to see if that could sort of like amplify their thoughts, and that's actually where the first one came from.
Yeah, I like that. Get a circle of people and put all their thought into putting all of their energy into that object, and then amplify it and into the universe.
Yeah.
I don't see why that's a bad idea to try.
I thought that was a good idea. When I got the email, I was immediately like a bit suspicious, but then actually I read it. I thought, that makes complete logical sense. It makes more sense than that it's artwork or whatever. He did have sort of cracked a little bit of a joke. So somebody thought they were umming and ahhing about what to make it out of, and somebody said we should make it out of copper, until somebody else pointed out that's a lightning rod. So maybe we shouldn't build it out of the copper.
Yeah, what? And then all hold hands while standing around it and touching it. No, thank you.
Yeah.
In the middle of a storm.
Yeah, exactly. CE5 then, as a thing, is this something you'd want to try?
I'm interested in it. I'm quite interested in the idea of meditation, focusing the mind. I'm also interested in the idea of there potentially being telepathic communication in the universe. Possibly, it might be something we can do. So yeah. I don't think that you could. I don't think that there's that much bad that can come from you trying to positively communicate with other extraterrestrial humanoid beings that exist within the universe with good intentions. I really don't think even if it doesn't work, nothing bad is going to happen. It just didn't work.
Yeah. Can we do it while having a few beers? That's what I have to ask.
I think so.
To check.
I think
it helps meditation, doesn't it?
It should help you. It should help you release issues. It should help you be able to, when you actually are meditating, you can focus probably a bit better. You're in a good happy mood, chatting. I can't see why it wouldn't.
We're going camping.
Yeah,
as soon as we're allowed.
Get pissed and try and initiate contact. I mean, I'm keen to try it. I will say I'm not keen to try it on my own, because I wouldn't want in Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind.
Yeah.
Your own. If I did have a Close Encounter of the Fourth Kind,
in a group.
I but I would want there to be others that had the shared experience. So you had multiple witnesses to the same event. So people claimed you were crazy, and you go, "Well, all of us saw it, so fuck off."
Yeah.
Sorry.
I better go. I don't know what you're talking about, Damien.
So all of us saw us. So go away.
Yeah. I'll be on the alien spaceship going, "Probe Damien, probe Damien. Don't probe me. Probe Damien."
There's not a lot of science around meditation and why meditation works very well in healing both your mind and body, but yet we've done it for thousands of years across multiple cultures, across multiple continents. So,
and then we have a modern science that comes along and go, I need to see results, I need to see things, I need to, and it's actually, you know what, sometimes things can't be measured empirically that easily. It doesn't mean it's not true.
Yes. So, and then you combine that you've got that with part of the process is meditation. Then we've got another part of it being the pineal gland that we think may be something of the brain that we're not fully aware of its full capabilities and functions yet, that might act as this antenna to communicate telepathically through the universe, with the species in the universe, in the cosmos. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of interesting things there that I'm keen to investigate and see whether there is anything to them. And just because scientifically we can't prove that they are possible yet, I think it's very naive and arrogant of us as a species to say, well, it doesn't exist then.
Tell you what then, in your comments, obviously always tell us what you think, but tell us whether you want us to go and sit in a field and give this a go. Because I'm thinking we probably should.
We probably should, but what we need to do is choose somewhere that's like a UFO hotspot in the UK, like, I don't know, Rendlesham Forest, or somewhere that's had a few sightings, or relatively frequent sightings. And then
we've already planned to go down there, so let's do it. Okay, so there you go. We've got a plan for future
summer this year, though. You said a few weeks. I'd say a few months. Let's get a bit warmer first, mate.
Let's wait until we're not going to get arrested for doing it as well.
That's also true.
Well, now here's a question: can we remember the Close Encounters, the other four? So Close Encounters of the First Kind is seeing one.
Yeah, I think the first kind is the sight of an unidentified. Yeah.
2 is if they land.
2's a landing with evidence. 3's a sighting of a
actual being
of an unidentified flying object, so an alien.
4 is when you get probed.
4 is when you get abducted
and probed up the bum. There's definitely one of them's about bum probing, mate.
Yeah,
definitely.
4 would probably be the one where that would come in.
Okay. Just check.
I don't really think that they probably do probe your arse. It's like in the film Pull. How much can you learn from probing something's arse?
It's definitely one I want to avoid anyway.
Well, exactly.
I don't fancy that one.
So I tend to think that if they are a highly advanced alien species that are visiting this planet in interstellar spacecraft, they're probably not investigating.
The first thing they want to do is drop his kegs.
No.
Drop his kegs, boys. Let's have a look.
They might harvest your your DNA. That's far more likely.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be going up your arse.
Push the cow off the operating table. Bend this guy over it. We need to do. I don't think they're doing that.
Like that original episode of South Park, Cartman gets an anal probe where he has a 50-foot satellite dish that just comes out of his arse.
That kind of looks a bit like Tom Selleck. That's my Cartman impression, or attempt at.